Hello, and welcome back to my course, .NET Core Web APIs for Beginners. As I said to you already, if you followed the previous procedure to create a web API from the Visual Studio, then actually it was pretty easy to do it. But for those of you who use the Visual Studio Core, or if you even wanted to create the Web API project based on the CMD or the console, that's what you need to do. Basically, I have selected my folder, final folder, Web APIs beginners, where I want to store this project. And if you're not sure how to do that, just run .NET. For example, all you have to do is just .NET new, and then you will get a list of the available projects which you can build. In my case, this is it. So these are the options for projects which I have installed along with my Visual Studio software. So in my case, in order for me to create a web application through the through the console, all I need to do is .NET new and say web API. So this is the short web app actually. I'm sorry, web app. So this is the one that you would need to use, or in some circumstances, web API. Okay, and then just click enter, and that's about it. The project will be created in your folder. Under my case, I will not be using at this point the CMD because I already created this project by using the Visual Studio. Okay, so let's test the API to see if that works. So 1 second. We need to make sure that our development environment is working perfectly fine before we further proceed with development. Obviously now all the resources are building, and there we go. So we have the get forecast integration of the API. Now in our case, I will not be needing the weather forecast because we're going to be building our own APIs, and we set for customers, right? So this is under the program. So this is what already comes with your web API project. As you can see, the controllers, this is what needs to be registered actually within the start environment context. So the controllers, the endpoints, and this is how we built or add the Swagger, and we specified that the environment is development. If it is development, then use Swagger and use Swagger user interface. And we have used HTTP redirections, meaning that we can use SSL here, and the rest is just run the app and map the controllers, which is pretty standard thing which comes out of the box when you when you actually create the project. On the other side, we have this app settings.json file, and this is where we are going to store, for example, any database connection information or usernames, passwords, and such things, so that we can actually pull out this information secretly and without any troubles from this file. So at this point, we have some login information, and the allowed hosts are pretty much start provides us with all of them. Okay, so enough for that. It's really the nothing. So the project really consists of dependencies. So these are pretty standard things which come with the project already pre-installed for you. Analyzers usually, I mean, so basically, so that you get some coding analysis about, let's say, for example, if we were building MVC or Razor pages in the C#, especially logging and so on and so on. And then the framework, which is ASP.NET Core App and .NET Core, spaces, and then packages. We're using, as we said, Swashbuckle ASP.NET Core 6.2.3 version. If you're in need to further install anything under the project, meaning a dependency or something like that, we can do it through the NuGet packages. So this is what's installed already, as I already mentioned, for example, or you can double click on the project and come here and see everything in the XML to see. So this is the new template actually of the project, which differs a little bit from the .NET as opposed to .NET Core. And we can see whatever packages have been installed here. And we allow nullable properties. And the .NET framework is .NET 6.0. And so we have a folder, obviously, which we call controllers right here. So that's where we store the controllers. These are the all installed dependencies. Something needs to get updated. We can update this one to 6.4.0. At this point, the code does not change, but if we need to install anything else, we need to browse, for example, for the .NuGet package. Under this course, we're just going to be building simple web API, which is the foundation of how you build complex APIs. And so pretty much we won't be needing anything extra, not at this point, to work with our web API. So I'm going to collapse all of whatever is expanded, and we said that we will be building, for the purpose of developing web APIs, we need models and we need the data context class, right? And let's discuss about all of these things and what they are and how they help us build this application. Okay, so how do we add a model class? Well, the model class is pretty much a concrete class which contains some concrete information about, for example, customers. We said that we are building a web API about customers, right? It's a pretty straightforward, but let's see how that's going to be built. So customers is the class which we're going to build, or model class, and for that purpose we need to enter some information such as field properties inside the customers. So the way you start is with prop and then hit tab, and then when you hit tab you can now specify this for saving coding, and now you can specify, for example, the type of the customers. I usually go with for example, I'd go with an integer in this case, and then hit tab again, and then customer ID, okay? And then hit double enter. And then the next suggested value would be customer name. I do have, okay, hit tab, and then it will get accepted and written for you. If you go to extensions, I do have the ReSharper, which is a paid version of these IntelliSense recommendations, but you can also download CodeRush from DevExpress, and it happened to be free. So I don't know for how long it's going to be free. You might want to check that on devexpress.com. If you have the opportunity to install it, you can install it. Otherwise, you would have to do some things manually and refactor code manually, which is still not a problem at all. So customers, what could customers have? Customer ID, customer name. Then, for example, in this case, we're going to list the address here. Address 1, right? The first line, then the second line of address, and then for example,